Good evening. This is Jonathan with Just Conversations. We are starting our wonderful podcast this evening as we're waiting for Miss Ada Joe to join us. So we'll pause for a moment and wait for her to join. Miss Joe, you out there? Miss Joe. All right. Waiting on Miss Joe, everyone. And good evening to everyone that's attending and listening. We appreciate the support. All right. Miss Joe, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am.
All right. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. This wasn't too difficult of a process, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was just you, you know?
I know, I know. Give
Yeah.
me one moment.
Okay.
How you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that your time is so late where you are, so thank you for making out the time to do this with me.
No, it's a joy. It's a joy. As we discussed, I am in the mental health space.
Hmm.
I have some thoughts and challenges with
Hmm.
the mental health space that I would love to get your opinion on. I don't know how much are you aware of my show. I am one of those controversial, outside the box thinking kind of folks. I question a lot because I see a lot, and I'm always
Yes.
digging to find the honest truth, Ms. Joe. So, with
Hmm.
that, let's get started. And can you tell us a little bit about you, your background, if you have any licensure, or a little bit of just who you are, and we'll start digging from there.
Okay, great. Thank you again for inviting me. And I looked into your show a little bit. Yes, I see. And honestly, I think it's a good thing for us to find questions, and to ask questions. That's the only way we can find answers.
Yes, ma'am.
So, with that said, my name is Ada Joe. I'm a mental health coach. I help men to gain a sense of their sense of purpose and create a more loving and intimate relationships with their families and be their best selves at home just as they are at work. And about my licensure, before I became a mental health coach, I've been a nurse for over decades, and 15 years of those time as a registered nurse was in mental health.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of experience with mental health and how our mental health system is. And in the process of working through that, I saw the challenges that we have in mental health. I saw the challenges in the system and also in the an inadequate care that people
Mm,
are receiving in our hospitals. And I say inadequate care in the sense that it's not that people are not doing their best. It's not that the professionals are not doing their best. The professionals are doing the best they can. And I repeat, I said, most people that are in the mental health space honestly wants to help people.
okay.
Honestly love the human behavior. Just like me, I'm fascinated by human behavior and the brain. And I think most people that are in that space are there because of that. But the system is just maybe just there's just something that's not quite there with the system. So that was when I started searching and asking questions and to bridge the gap between the hospital and when we send our patients out from the hospital, what do they do when they're by themselves? How do they How do they cope at home? How are they able to just continue to function from the things that from the medicines that they prescribe for them in the hospital, from the coping skills that they've been teaching them in the hospitals, in the doctor's offices, in the therapy? That was where how I found coaching, and which I think coaching is a good way to bridge the gap to support people to get from where they are to where they want to get to, and also just go through the mental health spectrum a little bit easier. So that's how I got here.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And with your 3 decades of being a medical practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
and with my, I haven't got 3 decades, but my little 7 8 years into the like I said, I own a drug rehabilitations
Mm-hmm.
center, and I typically see, Ms. Joe, how our community of minorities are inadequately insured. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, they're unable to get that medical help or substance abuse help or
Mm-hmm.
mental health help because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have adequate health coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something that might have been broken in the system, and I think that is one of the issues is that some communities just can't even get the help they need because they just plain out don't have insurance. Have you ran
Yes.
into that at any point?
Oh, yes, that is very, very prevalent. Just like I said, inadequate care. A lot of
Hmm.
people in mental health they are they go through the cracks because of inadequate care. Just like you mentioned, some people might not have insurance, and some people might not just have the means to even get to the hospital, or even the means to get to the doctor's offices, even if they maybe if they don't have adequate insurance, even if they have maybe like the government provide maybe government assistance, even to get to the hospital or to the doctor's offices consistently or regularly, they don't even have the means to do that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much in the system that we need to do more.
How do we get
We
there
need to
though?
do more.
How do we get to do more? Because it doesn't seem like we're ever going to get legislation or our presidents or any of the judicial branches to make those changes. So, based on your years of experience, how do we start chipping away at the inadequacies? Because to me, I don't see a way for us to fix this because it's, to me, just feel like it's such a big business that healthcare and mental health has just became a business so much that people are not even being seen. What I mean by that, I'll tell you a quick story. Like I go to my doctor and he'll come in, look at his iPad, stare at his iPad the whole time, never look up at me, and I have to stop him to be seen. Look at me
Mm-hmm,
in my eye. You know what I mean? Just don't go through my chart, tell me stuff, and then just walk out. So, because they got to get so many people seen so they can make their money. So,
mm-hmm,
where, what are your thoughts by seeing years of transition? Because growing up, I remember when my doctor used to call me the next day and check on me to see how I was doing, not just the nurse practitioner. I actually heard from my doctor. You know what I mean? So,
mm-hmm.
with big business taking over and conglomerates of healthcare corporations buying smaller practices and making this to huge corporations, where do we get off the roller coaster ride and start making the change? And how does that happen? That might be a real loaded question there.
Yes, that's a loaded question, and also that's a question that, like you said, is really difficult to grasp if we are trying to look at it in that load, in with all the that is going on in there. So, like I told you that during my during my years in the hospital and all of that, and watching all of this, I believe that we can start making a difference by individuals like you and me doing a little bit more,
Mm,
not just depending on what the system, what is going on in the system. Just like you have your drug rehabilitation center, maybe you do a little bit more. Like me, I just after so many years, I knew that there has to be something better, and I went into coaching so that I can do a little bit more. And
What
I don't know. I'm not very good in politics. I'm not very good there. I remember when I was, I used to. I'm not very good, and I really don't want to say so much about that end of it. But I believe that it has to come from bottom up. It might not come from top to bottom. I don't know if that makes sense.
I understand it makes sense, but and
Mm-hmm,
that's why I think we will kind of
mm-hmm,
maybe mutually disagree because I don't think the bottom can now do it. But I do agree with what you're saying
mm-hmm.
with each one reach one because I think
Yes.
now
Mm-hmm,
that I own my own facility, I am able to call the shots. So I am able to take in people who may not have adequate insurance because I am a for profit center. So I don't take Medicaid and Medicare.
mm-hmm,
So I'm able to be a blessing to someone else who may need me. So I do see that as a great point that's sticking out that we can make differences by worrying about our own 6 feet. And if we can do that, then eventually we'll get a couple miles in helping our own community. Excuse me. Okay. So one question that I have,
mm-hmm.
how has mental health and healthcare changed since when you started to now?
Mm. Cool. So much have changed, and so much have remained the same.
Okay.
So much have changed in the sense of also this is the area that I'm not an expert in, which I remember also when I used to tell people, I don't understand the money. I understand the care. I don't understand the
Right.
money in healthcare. So that aspect have changed a lot, in my opinion. And the aspect of care have also changed in the sense, just like what you are saying. Before you can go to a doctor's office and your doctor can spend 30 minutes with you. Not anymore because of
Mm-hmm.
the insurance, the system, in the
Mm-hmm.
insurance system. They don't have that much time to see you. And
Mm-hmm.
reimbursement is not even that much. So that doctor can't even hire so many people to call you next day, just like you said.
Yep.
Those things were things that were possible before. But now, in that sense, those things are very difficult to do, is in my opinion. Because one doctor can one person see 15 patients in an 8 hour period and take care of himself and eat, have lunch, and just take
Yep.
care of himself and take care of his own self care. It's almost impossible.
It's a,
It's almost
and
impossible.
and I
Uh-huh,
remember when I made that comment to my doctor about that you didn't see me, you were in here, but and I
uh-huh.
stopped him and he apologized and unfortunately he said I have 72 patients, Jonathan, that I have to see today.
Look, and I'm saying 15.
Yeah,
Even 15 is too much for
yeah,
one person. It's
yeah.
too much. It's too many
He's
for one person.
he said 72, and
Mm-hmm.
that I just it was floored. Okay, so let's transition into more of what a mental health coach does. So I'm on your website. I see that, but for those who may be listening or listen later, can you break down what does a mental health coach do, and what's the difference between a coach? Two-part question. What's the difference between a coach and an actual mental health counselor?
Okay. Thank you for the question. And I'm sure a lot of people have that question a lot. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Excellent.
Yes, I can hear you. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. So the difference between coaching and therapy, let me just use that. Therapy, counseling, and psychologist and all of that bunched into therapy. So the difference between coaching and therapy, I would say, is that coaching is more focused on the now and where you're going from here and your future goals that you want to reach. And a coach is not an expert in your life. A coach is like an ally. A coach is like some really like, let's just use like a football coach. Your
Okay.
football coach is your ally. They hold you accountable and they cheer you up and make sure that you do the things that you need to do to get to where you need to get to. That's the difference. That's coaching.
Okay.
While in therapy, I use like maybe psychotherapy, tends to deal more with your past and try to untangle those with other kinds of therapy like CBT and things like that to help you untangle your past and also moving forward to where you want to go. Did that make some sense to you?
100%. 100%.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And is one of the things, and again, tough question,
Mm-hmm.
um, of business of healthcare, and then we'll move on from that.
Mm-hmm.
Is I actually had um, and I'm trying to make sure I'm politically correct. I
Mm-hmm.
actually had someone tell me that they often, as a counselor, keep their clients in negative deficits so that way they can keep coming back.
Tell me, explain that to me.
What they said was is that they kept having their client relive the trauma so much that
Oh,
you see what I'm saying?
don't even say, don't continue with that.
And we oftentimes always say, we want people to get mental health assistance. But when I heard that for the first time, and they broke it down as, hey, if I got 10 clients and if I help all of them, how am I going to continue to pay my bills? And these are the things we do to keep
Oh
people
my
coming
gosh.
back. How are we making progress when you have that type of activity maybe going on? Not saying all. I'm not saying all. It was just my first time actually hearing in that exact term that he said
Oh my
is
gosh.
I, in a very prominent practice, and says that we often keep people in negative deficits to keep them coming back every week or every 2 weeks, because if we did, how will we be able to keep the lights on?
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to address this conversation because as a professional, as a licensed professional, I don't have words for that.
Okay. So you've
I,
never
I
heard,
am dis I am disappointed.
and
I
and
am
that's
disappointed.
and that's
Mhm.
where I got kind of frustrated hearing that, because I never thought, and I guess I see you do some holistic stuff, so I think
Mhm.
we might share a little bit in religion, but I also felt like, are we doing the man upstairs work? Are we truly helping people, if or has big business and business taken over? So it was just very difficult to hear that that actually happens.
It's very difficult for me to hear that. And in my years of practice, I've worked in small mental health places. I've worked in big, large mental health places. I've worked in government run places. I have not had that. I have
Well,
not seen this happen.
that
I
that's
know. I,
that's
I
good.
know. Yes, I know. Yes, that mental health is difficult on the clients, on the people struggling with mental illness. Mental illness, people with mental illness can live an active life, but it takes a lot to get there. That I understand. But somebody saying that purposely that they are making somebody relieve their trauma. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just I don't
Again,
have
this
words.
this is where
I
I
don't
said
have
in my
words.
show we
I don't
talk
have
about
words
a
for
little,
that.
we talk about tough subjects, but let's transition into more positive things. Let's
Hmm.
Because I'm sure, and not saying that you did it, but I had, I'm not making any innuendos. It was just something that I just didn't know that actually exists. So let's
I
trans.
didn't. I
Yeah,
didn't
it
either.
exists. It
Hmm.
exists. It
I'm glad.
exists.
I'm glad you told me. I'm glad you
It
told me.
exists
I
because
just
I
oh
didn't
oh
know that people would, and they actually oversaw. a practice that had 20 something clinicians. So, what would be that message during their staff meetings? So let's switch gears because we don't want to, because we're halfway through, and I really want to talk about how you've been impacting and how you have been making a difference, and actually talk about some of your successes that you've had as of late, because we also want to educate, but we also, by educating is, we may be doing that conversation of being cognitive. I'm a country boy, I might mess this up. Being cognitive of your therapy. So if you see that you're not progressing, and you may want to switch therapists, or hey, find another therapist. So we wanted to have that conversation.
Mhm.
But we also wanted to talk about um, some of the success rates. How have you, and what are some of the most inspiring stories that you can share with us of folks coming in at point wherever and leaving out at point wherever? If you can share that with us.
Okay, where do you want us to start? Which one?
Give
There's
me some
this
good news.
question is
Give me some
this.
good news of things that's happening.
Okay, great. If you want us to, let's go there. When I started my practice as a coach, I was seeing both. I still see both male and female clients, but I found out in my practice that that the men needs more in, in coaching, a little bit more than the females, and the men have more difficulty asking for help. Men have difficulty coming out to receive help, and they take longer time to even start doing the work that they need to do to get to where they need to get to. But in the end, you see, I see the when they invest themselves to do the work, I see that the work that they have done on themselves has so much effect on many more people than their families, their wife, their children. They're happier at work, they're happier at home. So I see, I see the difference, the change. And I go back again with you, like how I started my conversation with you, is that mental health is not only people that has mental health diagnosis. That's not the only people that I work with. I see mental health as a spectrum. There are people that have mental illness, they have a diagnosis. There are some people that are really don't have a diagnosis, but they are struggling with life. They are struggling with depression. They are struggling with, they are divorce, with loss of loved one, with trauma. I also have listened to this doctor that she talks about trauma dosing, that the trauma that we are talking about right now, assuming that somebody lost a parent and they are grieving so much, they get into depression because of that. It's not only because of that loss that is making them so depressed. It might be all the other traumas that has happened in their life, which we are not even looking into. So that is not so. When I get some of these people, they don't have to have a mental illness. They don't have to have a diagnosis. They might just be struggling in this time. And on the mental health spectrum, like I said, you go. Some people have illness. Some people are struggling. Some people just have a moderate mental health of their own, and some people are flourishing. So you want people to walk through that spectrum to flourish. So, and you don't want somebody that have a fairly good mental health to come back to languishing. You see what I'm trying to say there?
Yes.
So
Yep.
when you
Yep.
get when we're able to help people that are languishing, they don't have a diagnosis yet, they are not slipping back into a mental illness. When we can help them there, then they can get a good mental health, and they can be mentally well and start working towards flourishing. So, and
Nice.
I get a lot of people on that spectrum where they are struggling, they are unable to find help, they are having difficulties with family, they are struggling with work, they can't connect with their children. I had a guy that had this. He according to him, he said his dad was so masculine. He was almost terrified of his dad, but he was a good dad. And he can see himself doing the same thing to his children. And that is just his feeling so guilty of doing that to his own children. But he didn't know how to get help. So when he came to me, we worked together. He found a way to, in his own words, he said he goes to work. He's happy at work. He's the best man at work. He do everything he does. He does well at work. But when he comes home, his children are scared of him, and he doesn't know how to change that. So he's not in alignment with his own self. You know, he's a different man at work. He's a different human being at home, but he doesn't want to do that. Can you just imagine what I'm trying to explain to you?
Yep. Yep.
Somebody feeling
Yep.
that way every day of his life. He doesn't have a mental illness. He does not, but he's struggling with his mental wellness.
Yep.
So
Yep.
when you can support that person to get from there to, you know, walking through this relationship, have a better relationship, and walking through his own self, learning how to manage and learning how to manage his own emotions and learning how to define who he is, what his purpose and what is important to him. Those are all beautiful things to see. So yeah, I get people like that, and I, in the end, when after they work with me for 3 months, you see a changed person, somebody that now has, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to impact life, I'm going to support other people. So yeah, that is really beautiful to see.
Nice.
Hmm.
And is how do you feel that religion, whatever religion that you may practice, do you believe that plays a part as a tool in a toolbox with mental health?
Yes, yes, and another yes.
Okay.
Another yes. I believe I am a Christian. I'm sure you are too. And in our culture as Black people, I believe that religion has really, really helped us a lot and continue to help us. And I also believe that there's a place that religion is creating some misalignment with some of us, with some people that are struggling with
Now,
some of.
hold on. You got to break that down a little bit now. What do
Okay,
you mean? What do you mean by misalignments? Help us out.
okay. So what I'm trying to say with that is, like I said again, I'm a Christian. I believe in prayers. I don't know if you can hear this. Let me close the door. Give me 1 second, okay?
Okay, no problem.
I don't want this noise to be. Children are playing outside.
No
Okay.
problem. No problem.
So great. So what I'm saying there is, uh, prayers is a good thing to have in our toolbox. Prayers is almost like meditation. I believe in meditation. I believe in prayers. It's almost like calming your soul down, something to believe that is greater than you, something to
Yes,
believe that can support you when you're struggling. So when I talk to this man, I find out what tools work for you. Prayers doesn't work for everybody.
correct.
Meditation doesn't work for everybody. So that's where I'm saying that sometimes, but in our culture, we make it as if that church and prayers does everything for everybody. It doesn't. And when those people that is not working for them shows up, sometimes they are being shamed for not believing that prayers will work for them. Did that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it does. Okay.
I will use an example. Maybe that will make it a little bit clearer.
Sure.
Mm, uh, uh, for me, I was raised in church. I'm raising my children in church. But I'm sure the way I believe in prayers is not the way my 23-year-old son believes in prayers. It's not that he doesn't believe in prayers. You see, prayer is the first thing I run to. It might not be the first thing he will run to.
Right. Right.
And that's okay. And that's okay. So what do we do in that sense? Is for him to have other things, for him to find out within himself what else works for him, instead of shaming him that prayer is not working for him.
Understood. And
Mhm.
I think that's the growth and that's the openness because those
Mhm.
were some of the challenges you always would hear in the church of the church may not being as open. And that's where I think the
Mm-hmm.
mental health um, spud off or spit off a little bit more because oftentimes your church will be that place where you can go and have those honest and out conversations and your safe space to talk and get guidance and help you. But feeling ashamed of whatever that somebody else may say, I think that was part of the transition of where things changed. So I see also you do Zoom sessions, guided
Yes.
meditation,
Mm-hmm.
um, habit design guidance. Talk a little bit about the habit design guidance.
Habit design, I am a trained habit design coach. Habit design, basically habit design, what we'll do is we'll help you uh, learn ways to change your old habits that are not working for you, or maybe replace them with new habits that are working for you, and guide you to design habits that works for you. Just like I used my 23-year-old as an example. You know, assuming he said, "Okay, mom, what works for me is meditation." So how are you going to achieve that? You know,
Mhm.
so how are you going to achieve that? How are we going to make that possible for you to create that practice? Because all of this takes work, dedication, commitment, and consistency. So during habit design, we break it down and make sure that we find we break it down into small steps and find anchors where we can put those have new habits that you want, so that you remember to do them, and you do them for a few days, a few weeks. Your Automatically your brain knows that this is what helps you calm down. So yeah, that's what we do with habit design. And I run
Okay,
a 1 week habit design program, which is free, that some people can start with and see if it's something that works for them.
nice. So we
Mm-hmm.
talked a little bit about the behavior coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Exercise tutorial. Is that the regular old good old exercise that we're talking about for is weight loss and meditation, or what would you be? What would
Okay,
you? Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
okay. I do groups. I run groups. So uh, when we do our groups, we have a lot to do. Sometimes we, not sometimes, most of our group starts with maybe a little bit of 10-15 minutes exercise. So,
Okay.
which is also teaching people how to start moving their body, the benefits of movement. How movement can support you in your mood and change your mood and support you in your everyday, in everything you're doing. And also for people that wants to lose weight, that for so long doesn't even know where to start, have been blaming and shaming themselves for not being able to move. I can't do it. So in some of the in the groups, you start learning how to move. That might also help them to start doing more, to do do bigger exercises to help themselves and lose weight and achieve their ultimate goals.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So.
That's wonderful.
Mhm.
So as we move forward, um, what about the virtual retreats? How does those help potential clients, and how do they work?
Sometimes we have like about the last one we had like a 3 day weekend virtual retreat. So that is those retreats. I invite people like you. I invite other people to come and share their knowledge, and my clients learn, and also some of the skills that that are beneficial in our toolboxes to bring some people to teach those that I don't teach, or that I don't know how. Then you have more to choose to put in to have in your toolbox. So yeah, I do that, and yeah, those are really fun.
Okay. Well, definitely you can
Hmm.
invite me, and I'll be there anytime.
I
Just
will.
letting you know. Just letting you know. So as we wrap up, is there one question that you wish I would have asked you that I didn't ask? That I didn't ask you.
No. But one thing I would say to maybe to add, I don't know, maybe you have a question from that, is to, okay, maybe let me put it this way. I wish maybe we'll talk a little bit more about how masculinity is
How? I'm sorry.
affecting,
I'm sorry. I could barely hear you.
I think some people call it toxic masculinity, how it affects men's mental health.
Toxic masculinity.
Hmm.
Let's talk about it. Because I don't know if I might suffer from that. Hold on. So let's.
I don't think.
So you might have been a blessing tonight. Hold on now. So let's break that down real quick. Talk about it.
Okay, so what I meant by that, which the word I don't even like so much myself, but what I mean by that is that so many men, so many guys don't feel ashamed, feel that, what makes them a man is when they show anger, when they show rage. That's you're masculine, you're
Okay.
the man, you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
and that's what I mean by toxic, you know,
Okay.
that anger doesn't make you a man.
No, it doesn't. No, it
Okay, so maybe that's some of the things we should maybe start teaching, especially our younger ones, even the older men, that like being kind sometimes makes you even a greater man than than being angry and showing
doesn't.
rage,
Yes.
showing rage.
So let me
So,
ask you, though, Ms. Joe,
mhm,
is that because people may be in toxic relationships, and over time that sometimes those relationships created toxic men?
that's that's a possibility. And also the another possibility is also the trauma that we've been talking
Yes.
about.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And some of them are not even your own trauma. Some of the trauma might also be a handed down trauma. Some of the trauma might be from your dad. That's how you saw your dad behave. And you're behaving the same way, not because you want to, but because that's what you saw. So when are we going to break that?
Well, I think for me, some of my issues, and I don't
Mm-hmm,
know how deep they may be, is not
mm-hmm.
having a dad. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So,
Mm-hmm,
so that is an honest conversation to say, I
mm-hmm,
can't even tell you what traits he has that I have or don't have that you know what I mean? So
mm-hmm,
it's one of those things to say, and that's why I wanted to explore that. I'm never
mm-hmm,
one to be angry and yell and shout. I think my frustration is I don't like what's the way? I don't like extra talking. So if we got a problem, if I forgot to take out the trash, just tell me, hey, you forgot to take out the trash. And then that way I got it. It's a solution. Versus
okay.
sometimes I've learned that in relationships, people tend to want to make sure that their point is heard. So they
Mm-hmm,
want to tell you why it's important to take out the trash, what time it's important to take out the trash, and
mm-hmm.
how recycling helps the world while taking out the trash.
And you
And that
don't care about none of those.
so it's like as a man, we get so frustrated. It was like, I will take it out. I promise. I'll take it out. Let's stop talking about it. So I think I'm more solution driven.
Mm-hmm,
Just tell me the problem and let's come up with our solution. But I could definitely understand where you can say that uh, anger has fueled a lot of relationships. And as I've looked back over my life, I could definitely see that. And as I got older into my 40s, I could definitely see a shift because now I feel like I can get angry. I might have a heart attack. So let me sit myself down somewhere and not and not let this devil right here steal my joy. So I think as we get older, we sometimes get wiser and we'll watch our energies a
mm-hmm,
little bit.
mm-hmm. And that's an awareness that you have, that a lot
Yes,
of people still haven't haven't gotten that awareness yet, and they continue to struggle with that because some people they behave that way. It's not that they want to, it's not that they like it, they don't,
right, right.
they blame themselves after that, they get upset with themselves, and some people, sometimes you have a drug rehab. That's where some people now go and try to use other coping skills to calm
Mm-hmm.
themselves down or
Mm-hmm.
or to run away from this problem. So how can we get yourself? That's another thing. Like if you remember, I said everybody doesn't have a mental health illness. Most people don't have a mental health illness. That doesn't mean that they are mentally well. That doesn't mean that they are flourishing in their mental wellness. That means that they might need support to
And
flourish in
I
their
like
mental health. Hmm.
I like that term, mental health wellness. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
needing the
Hmm.
support. And I'm writing that down
Hmm.
because I can see that, and I can see all of us. And help. And I'm gonna ask you this question, and then I'll get out your hair, and I'll let you finish
Hmm.
enjoying your day. I don't want to keep you too long because definitely enjoying this, and I'm learning some things about me as we continue to talk. Um,
Hmm.
has medication been used more than it should have to help people cope with mental health? So, like in the
Hmm.
80s and 90s, we didn't have 47 pills. And I was watching one commercial this morning. If you have depression and you take this pill and you start getting a twitch and you got uncontrollable twitching from your medication, take this pill.
Hmm. Hmm.
How has that evolved? Because what did people do in the 70s and 60s with mental health? How did we make it? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
versus now when you go to a doctor and everything they want to give you is a prescription, versus, like you're saying, maybe doing a coach. And like you said, you
Hmm.
just may not be mentally well, but now we want to take a pill for a Xanax or something, you know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Versus dealing with those emotions, and fixing those, like I said, coming up with the solutions of those problems so you don't have to keep reliving them. So that question is, I know it was long,
Hmm.
um, where have we came from earlier to now with, I feel like everything now is a prescription versus,
Yes.
like you saying, maybe a coach, because they ain't writing no coach's prescription.
Mm-mm. Coaching has been here for a long time, but we haven't been using it in mental health because everything in mental health is lumped into mental illness.
Hmm.
We
Okay.
all lumped everything in mental health disorder, mental health illness. But there are some people that are not mentally well, but that doesn't have an illness that needs support to find tools to get better. Yes, I hear you too with what you're saying about medications. I believe in medications. I believe there's a place for medication. I believe
Okay.
that medication is helpful. I truly and honestly believe it. I believe that, well, that's my practice. That's what I've done for many years. That's what I went to school for. And I've seen medicine and other types of therapy and help and treatments in the hospital help people tremendously with mental illness. But is it getting too much? Yes, from what you're saying, yes, I also believe that there are some that we can do better.
Hmm.
You know, like we're talking about exercise.
Hmm. Hmm.
Exercise gives you, it has been proven, even not even only exercise, the tools like exercise gratitude, all those have been proven under MRI that our brain almost get what you get from medication from depression
Wow.
just by you exercising or
Yeah.
through having a gratitude practice. That you get all this endorphin and serotonin going once you start practicing gratitude. Once you start maintaining your exercise, you get all these happy hormones that makes you feel a little bit better and wants to do more for yourself. So that's where I think that coaching comes in and very handy. That it helps you try to learn these tools to, yeah, to start feeling a little bit better and continue to go towards flourishing instead of going back into mental illness and where you will require more medications.
Okay.
Yep.
And that was definitely. I honestly say I do feel more serotonin releasing, and I feel a lot more happy, and life perk up
Mm-hmm.
a lot for me when I'm being very grateful and humble and appreciative.
And it has been shown, I'm telling you, this is just not you saying, it has been shown through studies that practicing gratitude changes your brain. That has been shown.
Mm,
It's a research. Mm-hmm.
okay, good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how can everybody find you? So we've taught them and kind of educate them. How can now they've enjoyed our conversation and they want to talk with you and get that coach? How can they find you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I'm Ada Joe. On Instagram, I'm Coach Ada J. And on Facebook, I am Talk and Heal with Coach Ada Joe. And also, they can reach me through my website, adajoe.com. And
Okay.
my mission and vision here is to create a safe space for us to have an honest dialogue and we could gain tools to start healing ourselves and our communities. So, yeah, if anybody wants to reach me, I'm here and I'm open to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you might have somebody that need a coach as we hang up. So I might need you next week and coach me up, coach. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
come.
I I definitely enjoyed this conversation. Definitely insightful. Uh, well, I'm appreciative that you're in there making that change one person at a time, because
Mhm.
sometimes that one person tells somebody else, and before you know it, you've created a whole village, and now they can
Yes.
go out and be a part of building their own village of help. So thank you again. Sorry to keep you on a lot longer than we anticipated, but I really enjoyed it. And I think I'm gonna take some of these conversations into my practice of not everybody, because everybody isn't mentally ill. You know what I mean? Like I
Mm-mm,
can see it,
mm-mm,
and
mm-hmm,
and I can see where it can be a mental behavior.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Also, you know what I
mm-hmm,
mean. So,
mm-hmm,
and I'm writing that down because
mm-hmm. Everybody is not doesn't have a mental health illness. Everybody doesn't. But most of us are have there's nobody that has zero dose of trauma. Most of us have some trauma. So how are you? How much trauma do you have? And how are you helping yourself? How are you supporting the trauma? How are how is it affecting you? I read another book that says that trauma is not what happened to you, is what trauma left in you.
mm,
That's what it is. So how we addressing that which trauma left in us. Mm.
okay. So you gave me
Yeah.
homework. You giving me homework. You giving me homework.
And I have another homework for you.
Okay.
I have an assessment. I think I will send you a link to that. This is
Okay.
also an assessment that anybody can take. Anybody that wants to, most of my clients, that's where we start. You take an assessment and see where you are in your mental health
Is
journey.
that your survey on your website?
I don't have it on my website right now.
Okay.
Yeah, but I once we get off this call, I think I will email it to you. Or I can even
Okay.
do it right when we're talking here.
Yeah, just you could text me or email it to me. And I didn't
Mhm.
plan on you becoming my coach, so I don't really know how I feel about that. But I guess the stars may align and we'll figure life out. So I
Yeah, but
appreciate you.
anybody else, if you know anybody that wants to take it,
Yeah,
that's
hey,
fine.
hey, you first again. I said we got to sweep around our own front door, right? So
Yeah.
I might need to be one of your own testimonials. So, again, thank you. Definitely, I enjoyed this conversation. And you've left how people can get a hold of you, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jonathan. I appreciate your time and I wish you the best of luck in what you're doing,
Same
helping
to
so many people. And please take care of yourself and be well.
All right, you too, and have a good evening.
And you too, sir. Thanks. Bye.
All right, bye.
Mhm.